Hello, my fellow Earth lovers, and welcome back to Earthly Delights, where we work with the soil, learn from the plants, and uncover the simple but powerful lessons behind growing our own food. Now picture this for a moment. Two cucumber plants are growing side by side in the same garden. They receive the same sunlight, stretch their roots through the same soil, and drink from the same watering routine. But somehow, one plant gives you only 2 or 3 small, twisted, disappointing cucumbers all season. The other vine keeps producing so heavily that one plant can fill a basket, and before long, you are looking for neighbors, friends, or anyone willing to take extra cucumbers home. Same garden, same conditions, completely different results. And in most cases, the real difference is not the plant, it is the gardener. I know that because I used to be that gardener who struggled. Years ago, if I harvested half a dozen cucumbers from one plant in an entire summer, I considered myself lucky. But after years of growing, testing, failing, observing, and learning from the soil, my cucumber harvests are now so abundant they almost become a good problem to have. And here is the most important thing I want you to understand. Heavy cucumber production is not about being born with a magical green thumb. It is not about luck, and it is not reserved for expert gardeners only. It comes down to simple, practical knowledge. When you understand how cucumber plants grow, what stresses them, what supports them, and how to work with their natural rhythm, gardening becomes much easier and far more rewarding. Today, I will walk you through 8 clear steps that can turn a weak cucumber patch into a strong, productive, fruit-loaded garden. By the end, you will know exactly how to help your cucumbers produce like crazy. And the best part is, it is much easier than most people think. So grab your gardening gloves, take in that fresh morning air, and let's get growing. Section 1. The secret is in the seed, choosing the right varieties. Let's begin where every strong harvest truly begins, with the seed. Many gardeners don't realize that the success or failure of a cucumber crop can be decided long before the plant ever touches the soil. We often think a cucumber plant is simply a cucumber plant, and if we water it, it should produce. But after years of growing and observing plants closely, I can tell you that cucumbers are much more interesting than that. A traditional cucumber plant usually produces 2 types of flowers, male flowers and female flowers. The female flowers are the ones that become the cucumbers we harvest, and you can recognize them by the tiny baby cucumber sitting right behind the blossom. Male flowers do not become fruit. Their job is to provide pollen. For fruit to develop, pollen must be moved from a male flower to a female flower, usually by bees. This process is called cross-pollination, and these traditional cucumber plants are known as monoecious varieties. This is where many gardeners run into trouble. What happens if the bees do not arrive at the right time? What if you garden in a neighborhood where pollinators are scarce, or where pesticide use has reduced their numbers? If a female flower does not receive enough bee visits to spread that thick, sticky pollen properly, the little cucumber behind the flower may turn yellow, shrivel, and fall from the vine. It looks like the plant is failing, but often the real issue is poor pollination. Now here is where choosing the right seed can completely change your season. Some cucumber varieties are parthenocarpic or gynoecious. The words may sound complicated, but the idea is simple. Parthenocarpic varieties can set fruit without pollination, which means they do not depend on bees to produce cucumbers. Gynoecious varieties are bred to produce mostly female flowers, so more of the plant's energy goes toward fruiting instead of making large numbers of male flowers. Think about what that means in the garden. Instead of waiting and hoping that pollinators arrive at exactly the right time, you can grow a vine where nearly every flower has the potential to become a cucumber. The plant wastes less energy and gives you a much better chance at a heavy harvest. Varieties such as Excelsior, Diva, and the crisp Diamant are known for these kinds of productive traits. So before you worry about fertilizer, pruning, or watering schedules, start with the seed packet. Choosing the right variety is one of the easiest ways to stack the odds in your favor. And in gardening, just like in life, many outcomes begin with the choices we make at the very beginning. Section 2. Rise up, the magic of trellising. Once you have the right seeds, the next thing to think about is space. A cucumber vine left to sprawl across the ground often turns into a tangled, damp mess. The leaves overlap, shade each other, and hold moisture for too long after watering or rain. That trapped humidity creates the perfect environment for fungal problems, such as powdery mildew and downy mildew. At the same time, the cucumbers lying on wet soil can become stained, misshapen, or begin to rot on one side. They also become much easier targets for slugs, insects, and other garden pests. The truth is, cucumbers are natural climbers. They produce curling tendrils that are designed to grab onto support and pull the vine upward. So instead of forcing them to crawl across the soil, give them structure and let them rise. Growing cucumbers vertically on a trellis can completely change the way the plant grows and the way you manage it. You can use a strong wire fence, a cattle panel, an A-frame trellis, or even a simple overhead support, with twine dropping down to the soil. The exact material is not the most important part. What matters is that the vine has something sturdy to climb. When cucumbers grow upward, the leaves spread into a more open, layered canopy. More leaves receive direct sunlight, which improves photosynthesis and helps the plant produce more energy for growth and fruit. Air also moves more freely through the vines, helping the foliage dry faster and reducing disease pressure naturally. There is also a very practical benefit for the gardener. When cucumbers grow vertically, harvesting becomes much easier. Instead of digging through a jungle of leaves on the ground, you can see the fruits hanging clean, straight, and easy to pick. You are less likely to miss overgrown cucumbers, and you can spot pest or disease problems earlier. Trellising is not just about saving space. It is about giving the plant the support it was built to use. When we lift the vines off the ground, we improve airflow, light, fruit quality, and the entire growing experience. Sometimes a struggling garden does not need more effort. It simply needs better structure. Section 3. The art of hydration and the blanket of mulch. Now let's talk about one of the most important parts of growing cucumbers. Well, water. A cucumber fruit is made up of nearly 95% water, so it should not surprise us that these plants need steady, consistent moisture. They are fast growers, and when the water supply becomes irregular, the plant feels that stress quickly. When cucumbers go through dry spells, or when they receive too much water one day and not enough the next, the plant can enter a stress response. Under that pressure, compounds such as cucurbitacin can become more noticeable in the fruit. That is one reason cucumbers may turn bitter, misshapen, or unpleasant to eat. A bitter cucumber is often a stressed cucumber, and water stress is one of the most common causes. For strong production, cucumbers generally need about 1 to 2 inches of water per week, depending on the weather, soil type, and stage of growth. The goal is not shallow sprinkling. You want to water deeply, so the roots are encouraged to grow downward and explore the soil. A deeper root system helps the plant handle heat and short dry periods much better. The best time to water is early in the morning. Aim the water at the base of the plant, not over the leaves. A soaker hose or drip irrigation system works especially well because it delivers moisture directly to the root zone while keeping the foliage dry. Wet leaves, especially overnight, can invite diseases like powdery mildew, so overhead watering should be avoided whenever possible. But watering alone is not enough. Once that moisture is in the soil, we need to protect it. Bare soil under hot sun loses water quickly, heats up fast, and can stress the roots. This is where mulch becomes one of the gardener's best tools. A few inches of organic mulch, such as straw, chopped leaves, or wood chips, helps hold moisture, moderate soil temperature, reduce weeds, and protect the root zone. There is one important timing detail to remember. Cucumbers love warm soil. If you apply thick organic mulch too early, while the ground is still cold, you can trap that cool temperature in the soil and slow the plant down. Wait until the soil has warmed well, around 75 degrees Fahrenheit, before laying down your mulch. Once the soil is warm, that mulch becomes a protective blanket. When you water deeply and mulch wisely, you create the kind of stable growing environment cucumbers love. Protect the roots, protect the soil, and the plant will have the foundation it needs to produce heavily. Section 4. Feeding the beast. The right nutrients at the right time. Cucumbers are hungry plants. They grow fast, they stretch their vines quickly, and in warm weather, it can almost feel like they gain new length overnight. But that kind of growth does not happen on empty soil. If you want strong vines and steady fruit, you have to feed cucumbers properly, and more importantly, you have to feed them at the right time. Before planting, the soil should already be prepared with plenty of organic matter. Compost or well-rotted manure worked about 8 to 12 inches deep gives the roots a rich, living foundation to grow into. This early preparation matters because cucumbers do not like struggling in poor, tired soil. They need loose, fertile ground that can hold moisture while still draining well. When the plants are young and beginning to run, nitrogen is important. At this stage, the plant is building leaves, stems, and vines, so it needs enough nitrogen to create strong green growth. But this is where many gardeners make a common mistake. Once cucumbers begin to flower, if you keep feeding them too much high nitrogen fertilizer, the plant may give you a huge, beautiful, leafy vine with very little fruit. It looks impressive, but it is not what we are growing for. At the flowering and fruiting stage, the balance needs to shift. Cucumbers still need nutrition, but they need more support for blossoms, roots, and fruit development. Phosphorus and potassium become especially important. A balanced organic fertilizer, such as 5-5-5, or a fruiting blend, like 4-8-5, can work very well. I also like adding a small amount of bone meal where appropriate, because calcium helps support firm fruit structure and good cell strength. During heavy production, a light liquid feeding every 10 to 14 days can help keep the vines active. Compost tea or fish emulsion can give the plant a gentle boost without shocking the soil. And if your vines begin to look tired or pale in the middle of the season, especially while carrying a heavy fruit load, a small dose of Epsom salt may help if magnesium is lacking. Magnesium supports chlorophyll, and chlorophyll is what keeps those leaves working like solar panels. The lesson is simple. Do not just feed more. Feed smarter. A cucumber plant needs different support at different stages. Give it the right fuel at the right time, and it will reward you with stronger vines, healthier leaves, and far more cucumbers. Section 5. The courage to prune. Shaping for success. Now we come to something that makes many gardeners nervous. Pruning. I understand why. When you have cared for a plant from seed, it feels strange to take scissors or pruners and cut part of it away. But with cucumbers, especially vining types, letting the plant grow in every direction is not always kindness. Sometimes too much growth becomes a burden. Indeterminate vining cucumbers often produce side shoots, sometimes called suckers, from the leaf nodes. If every one of those shoots is allowed to grow freely, the plant can turn into a thick wall of leaves. At first, that may look like success, but inside that dense growth, air does not move well, light cannot reach the inner leaves, and the plant spends too much energy maintaining foliage instead of putting that energy into fruit. That is why pruning matters. When the plant is still young, gently pinch off small side shoots so it can focus on building one strong main vine. This creates a cleaner structure and makes the plant much easier to manage. In greenhouse growing, professionals often use what is called the umbrella system. They allow the main stem to reach the top of a tall trellis, often around 6 feet, then pinch the growing tip and let 2 or 3 side shoots hang down like an umbrella. This keeps the plant productive while still controlled. The lower part of the cucumber vine also deserves attention. The lowest 6 to 8 inches of leaves are often shaded, older, and close to the soil. These leaves usually do not receive enough sunlight to contribute much energy through photosynthesis. Instead, they can trap moisture, invite disease, and create a bridge for soil-borne problems to move upward. Cutting those lower leaves away improves airflow and keeps the base of the plant cleaner. Pruning may feel harsh at first, but it is really about direction. You are not weakening the plant, you are helping it focus. By removing what blocks light, traps disease, or drains energy, you give the vine a better chance to do what it is meant to do, grow strong and produce fruit. And just like in the garden, sometimes in life we also need to cut away what keeps us shaded, crowded, and tired before we can truly bear fruit. Section 6. The pollination puzzle. Playing bee. Now let's say you did not plant a self-pollinating or parthenocarpic cucumber variety. Maybe you are growing traditional cucumbers. Your vines are full of flowers, and yet the baby cucumbers keep turning yellow and dropping off. When that happens, the plant may not be sick at all. It may simply be missing pollination. Traditional cucumbers depend on pollen moving from male flowers to female flowers. Bees usually handle this work, but sometimes they are not around when we need them. Long, rainy periods can keep pollinators away. Extreme heat, especially temperatures over 90 degrees Fahrenheit, can reduce pollen quality. In some gardens, there simply are not enough bees visiting the flowers. When the female flower is not pollinated well, the tiny cucumber behind it cannot develop properly, so it yellows, shrivels, and falls. When nature needs help, you can step in and play the role of the bee. Hand pollination is simple, and in some gardens, it can make a dramatic difference in harvest. The best time to do it is in the cool of the morning, when the flowers are fresh and open. First, find a male flower. Male flowers grow on a plain stem, without the tiny cucumber behind the petals. You can use a small, soft paintbrush, a cotton swab, or you can pluck the male flower and gently peel back the petals to expose the pollen-covered anther. Then, find a female flower. Look for the small cucumber-shaped swelling behind the blossom. Gently dab or brush the yellow pollen onto the stigma in the center of that female flower. You do not need to be rough. A light touch is enough. One male flower can usually provide enough pollen for 2 or 3 female flowers, so you can pollinate several blossoms in just a few minutes. There is something deeply satisfying about this small act. You are not forcing the plant. You are completing a natural process when the garden needs support. When your fingers are dusted with golden pollen, you begin to understand that gardening is not passive. We are not just watching plants grow. We are participating in the delicate balance that turns flowers into food. Section 7. The buddy system. Companion planting. In nature, no plant truly grows alone. Beneath the soil, roots interact. Soil life moves nutrients. Insects respond to flowers, and one plant can often help protect or support another. That is the heart of companion planting, and when it is done wisely, it can make your cucumber patch much stronger. If you want cucumbers to thrive, surround them with the right neighbors. One of my favorite companions is nasturtium. Nasturtiums are useful because they can act as a sacrificial trap crop. Aphids are strongly attracted to their tender leaves and flowers, so they often gather on the nasturtiums instead of attacking your cucumber vines. That gives you time to spot the problem early and manage it before it spreads. Dill is another excellent garden ally. When dill flowers, it attracts beneficial insects, such as parasitic wasps and lacewings. These insects help control pests, including cucumber beetles and other soft-bodied insects that can weaken your plants. Marigolds are also valuable around the garden because their roots produce compounds such as alpha-terthienol, which can help suppress root knot nematodes in the soil. And if you want a natural living support, tall sunflowers planted on the north side of your cucumber bed can give structure without shading the crop too heavily. But companion planting is not only about choosing good friends, it is also about avoiding bad neighbors. Keep strong aromatic herbs like sage and fennel away from cucumbers, because they can interfere with the growth of nearby plants. Cucumbers also should not be crowded beside potatoes or melons, since they compete for similar nutrients and can share disease pressure. A productive garden is a community, and every plant you choose changes the balance. Some companions protect, attract, and support. Others compete, weaken, or invite problems. Choose wisely, and your cucumbers will have a much better chance to grow strong, healthy, and heavy with fruit. Section 8. The harvest loop and succession planting. Now we come to the part every gardener waits for, the harvest. But this is also where many people accidentally slow their cucumber plants down. A cucumber plant is not producing fruit because it wants to feed us. Its natural mission is to reproduce. It wants to grow mature fruit with hard, viable seeds. When you leave a cucumber on the vine too long and allow it to become large, yellow, and overripe, the plant receives a powerful signal. Mission accomplished. It has produced mature seed, so it no longer feels the same need to keep making new flowers and new fruit. After that, production can slow dramatically. The plant may abort young cucumbers, decline quickly, and begin to shut down, all because one overgrown cucumber was left hanging too long. To keep cucumbers producing heavily, you must interrupt that cycle. Pick early and pick often. Harvest pickling cucumbers when they are around 2 to 4 inches long, and slicing cucumbers when they are about 6 to 8 inches long. Check your vines every day if you can, because cucumbers grow fast, especially in warm weather. The more consistently you harvest, the more the plant is encouraged to keep flowering and setting new fruit. But even the best cucumber vine has limits. Cucumbers are fast Energetic plants, more like sprinters than marathon runners. Even with good watering, feeding, pruning, and harvesting, many vines begin to tire after 8 to 12 weeks of heavy production. The leaves age, pest pressure increases, disease becomes harder to hold back, and the plant gradually loses strength. That is why succession planting is such a powerful strategy. Do not plant all your cucumber seeds at one time and hope they carry you through the whole season. Instead, start a new batch every 4 weeks. As the first vines begin to slow down under summer heat, pests, and age, the next wave of young, vigorous plants will be ready to take over. This simple timing can turn one short harvest window into a long, steady cucumber season. With fresh vines coming behind the older ones, you can keep harvesting crisp, clean cucumbers right up until the weather finally brings the season to an end. Growing a heavy harvest of cucumbers does not require magic. It comes from observation, timing, and learning how to work with the plant instead of against it. Start with the right seed. Give your vines a trellis so they can climb, breathe, and receive more light. Water deeply and consistently. Protect the soil with mulch once it is warm. Feed the plant according to its stage of growth, and do not be afraid to prune away what blocks airflow, wastes energy, or invites disease. Help with pollination when bees are missing. Surround your cucumbers with useful companions, and harvest every day with attention and gratitude. Every time you step into the garden, the plants are teaching you something. Build the right environment, remove what drains energy, support life around you, and the harvest will often become far greater than you expected. Thank you so much for spending this time with me on Earthly Delights. If these cucumber growing tips gave you a new idea for your garden, remember to subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and share in the comments what is the first change you are going to make in your cucumber patch this season. Until next time, keep your hands dirty, keep your heart open, and keep your garden growing. See you next week.